The total population in the world will exceed 8 billion in 2024, and we predict that the human population will double by the end of this century. Today, there is no continent where no humans live, and almost all land on Earth has been invaded by us. However, the world was not always like this. Just 50,000 years ago, the human population was less than 1 million. In fact, scientists think that the human population may have dropped to 1,000 to 10,000 people during the Toba disaster that occurred 70,000 years ago. This event may have triggered the spread of humans to the world, because scientists think that climate change caused the first humans to leave Africa, and research shows that a mini volcanic winter occurred during the Toba disaster. Even though we don't know exactly why the first humans left Africa, we do know that one of the first places they went was the Australian continent. At that time, the Australian continent was home to untouched forests and many wild animals. Some of these creatures had frightening appearances and huge sizes that would make you change your path when you saw them. The first humans, who encountered creatures they saw for the first time, poisonous species, and foreign environments, did many things to survive here. So how did the first humans reach a landmass surrounded by a huge ocean like the Australian continent? Could the first ships have been built by them? Throughout the history of the world, there has almost always been an ocean separating the Asian and Australian continents. But from time to time, the distance between these two continents has decreased due to tectonic plate movements or climate changes, and these situations created an opportunity for creatures from Asia to pass to the Australian continent. For example, between 75,000 and 50,000 years ago, the world's sea level dropped to much lower levels than it is today. This caused the waters between New Guinea, the Australian continent, and Tasmania to retreat, allowing these three landmasses to merge and form a megacontinent called Sahol. While these were happening, the waters between Malaysia and Java were also retreating. After a while, a landmass called Sunda was formed here. The first people started to move from the landmass called Sunda to Sahol. Simulations show that during these migration waves, people moved in groups of at least 1,300 people. However, these people could not have gone directly to the Australian continent because even though the sea level was low at that time, there were still areas full of water between these two landmasses. This was a big obstacle at the time and had to be overcome. Therefore, scientists think that the first people used boats made of bamboo or wood to reach Australia and migrated from one island to another. So this migration was not an accident or a random event. It was a very well-planned and organized movement. The first people who reached the shores of Australia after this wave of migration were probably shocked because there were so many creatures here that they had never seen before. Some of them were so big that they lost their minds. These creatures, known today as megafauna, started to appear about 2.5 million years ago and roamed all over the world until 10,000 years ago. We can observe traces left by megafauna all over the world. One of these creatures is Diprotodon Optatum, the largest marsupial that ever lived, which lived in Australia. Like many large herbivores that lived, Diprotoma was heavily built, had a wide abdomen, and had 4 legs. These creatures could grow up to 4 meters or 13 feet long and weigh up to 2.8 tons or 6,170 pounds. If you think encountering a rhino on safari is scary, imagine encountering one of these ancient beasts in the wild. Add to that the imagery a giant monitor lizard that hunted diprotodons, because these creatures may have been prey for these giant reptiles known as Megalania. Megalania, the largest lizard that ever existed on Earth, could grow up to 5 to 7 meters or 16 to 23 feet long and weigh up to 2 tons or 4,400 pounds. The only creature we can compare Megalania to today is the Komodo dragon, which can grow up to 3 meters or 10 feet long and weigh up to 70 kilograms or 154 pounds. When the skulls of the Komodo dragon and Megalania are examined, it is seen that both creatures have similar serrated teeth. It is also highly likely that Megalania had a powerful venom like the Komodo dragon. In other words, even if you escaped from this creature's grasp, if it bit you, you would still be its prey, because its venom causes the prey to go into shock and die from blood loss in a short time. When this happened, Megalania would follow the scent of the prey and feast on it. However, these creatures were not only after certain prey, they ate whatever they saw around them. If people had wandered through forests and grasslands, they would have encountered these creatures, and a fight between these two species would have inevitably occurred. Many people may have lost their lives during this fight. In addition, Megalania was not the only scary creature that people encountered. This ancient crocodile, called Quinkana, which had an equally scary appearance, may have also given the people here a hard time, because while Megalania ate everything it saw in the environment, these creatures could run after their prey for long periods of time like a real hunter. And unlike crocodiles living today, they did this with their long long legs. Quinkana, a crocodile that lived on land, could grow up to 6 meters or 20 feet long and could reach a height of 2 meters or 6.5 feet thanks to its long feet. Its hind legs were longer than its front legs, and instead of claws, its feet had hoof-like structures. This allowed them to run very fast and chase their prey for long periods of time. In addition, Quinkanas had different teeth than crocodiles living in water, and their teeth were curved and sharp like the teeth of a T-Rex. This allowed them to cut their prey. Imagine for a moment that such a strange-looking creature was running towards you quickly from the bushes and attacking you. Even if you ran away, it would continue to follow you for a long time, and with the ancient tools in your hand, it would have finished you off long before you could finish this thick-skinned creature off. During the time the Quinkana lived in Australia, they hunted many mammals, birds, and other reptiles. They probably even hunted Megalanias, but they weren't the only hunters roaming the lands of ancient Australia, and there was another creature you wouldn't want to get your hands on. Its name was Wanambi. Wanambi was an ancient species of snake that lived around the same time as both Quinkana and Megalania and is now extinct. This snake was very different from today's snakes because it belonged to an extinct family of snakes known as Madsoidae. Snakes in this family are thought to have had primitive jaws that were inflexible and were huge in size. Here, Wanambi was one of the largest snakes in this family. Although it was not the largest snake that has ever lived in the world, it could grow up to 6 meters or 20 feet, equivalent to the Great Burmese python. While many snakes living on the Australian continent today are normally poisonous, this snake was not poisonous. But this did not prevent it from being one of the worst killers that ever lived at the time, because Wanambi would ambush wetlands and attack living things passing by, and then squeeze its prey with its muscles, stopping its blood circulation and killing it. However, since it had a small skull, it could not swallow its prey directly. Therefore, it would tear its prey apart using its sharp teeth and strong muscles and eat them piece by piece. Although people had a hard time in Australia where such creatures existed, they somehow managed to survive. For example, the most complete Diprotodon fossil ever discovered has a small hole in its rib bone, indicating that it was hit by a spear. And this hole shows us that humans were able to hunt these creatures. The biggest thing that helped humans survive when they reached Australia was stealing the eggs of these giant birds known as Genyornis newtoni. This bird, which was about 2 meters or 6.5 feet long, was a heavy-bodied creature with tiny wings and huge feet, and they lived in open forest areas and savannas. Their eggs were so nutritious that a common egg could weigh up to 1.6 kilograms or 3.5 pounds. Research shows that humans stole many of these eggs, cooked them over fire, and ate them. We know this thanks to these burnt eggshell fossils that have been found in large numbers. In addition, although these creatures seem quite docile, they may have exhibited aggressive behavior when it came to their eggs, just like other birds. Fossil studies show that these creatures could have been relatively fast runners, and that their giant legs were quite strong and muscular. So when Genyornis saw humans stealing their eggs, they might have run towards them quickly and made flying kicks with their powerful legs. We see this behavior in today's cassowary and ostriches. In addition to these, of course, there were some consequences of humans reaching the Australian continent, and in just a few thousand years, the megafauna here became extinct. In fact, humans may have wiped out not only them, but also the entire megafauna in the world, because interestingly, after humans left Africa, there was an incredible collapse in megafauna species, and it is seen that wherever humans went, the megafauna there became extinct. Thank you for watching the first video of the channel. I would be happy if you write your thoughts about the video in the comments. Goodbye.